and welcome to another instalment of No Small Questions, where you, the listener, get to pose your burning questions directly to the No Small Roles cast. I'm superfan Sam Oakes, also known as the Question Master, and joining me tonight we have a pair of total legends. You may know him as Hina? No, Cal? No, Gilgamesh? Alcibiades? Enkidu! Oh, of course it's Enkidu. You know, most of the time. It is, of course, the amazing Daryl Bailey.
What an introduction. Thanks.
Well, thank you. And our second guest tonight is, he's a man of few words, but hopefully we can get him to open up a bit tonight. We love this tinker and his interchangeable dragon heads. It's Orin the Artificer, aka Ben Galpin.
Hello!
Very warm welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I feel warmed.
Oh.
That's the power of my warming voice. Joining us tonight, we do have some of our Patreon subscribers waiting in the wings to have their questions answered. And there are some really good ones on this list. So we'll look forward to hearing that a little bit later in the show. Now, before we get this Q&A started, I should mention that we will be discussing events right up until episode 28. So if you haven't caught up yet, and you want to avoid spoilers, now is your chance to go listen to those beauties.
28.
Yeah, what happened then?
Is that?
Okay, yeah. I think that's... Yeah.
Is that Dwayne?
Yeah. Get out, you're rocking the boat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah, of course, because you guys are so much further ahead. But no spoilers from you guys then. But for everybody else, yeah, you've gone, you've listened to episode 28, and you're back. Oh, great. Nice to see you again. Okay, let's crack on with some questions. Let's start off with a question for both of you. And this is from @Amandoop, who asks...
Hey, Amandoop.
Yo.
Such a good name. Do you have any tips for people who have absolutely no acting ability to help make their character sound at least a bit different to their player voice? That's a really good question, actually. So yeah, have you got any tips for people that trying to find that character without necessarily coming from it the way that we would, which is with the actor's head, given circumstances, that kind of thing?
This actually came up. So the other day we did a interview with another podcast, which I shall plug here briefly, called Thinking Critically with the lovely Danlu. And this actually came up in that discussion as well, because every week on that podcast, there's a one-word topic. And the one-word topic that he chose for the five of us who were able to go on was acting, which makes sense. So there's a few tips sort of floating around in my head, and I can't remember which ones I came up with or which ones other people came up with. So I apologize to the cast for stealing your ideas and passing them off as my own. But I remember there was a bit of a discussion about sort of voice stuff, and if that's something that people are comfortable doing, that can be a fun way of helping you get into a bit of a character. So, but the thing with that was that we were chatting about the fact that lots of people aren't going to feel comfortable coming in and being like, I'm going to do a completely different accent or whatever. So we were discussing little sort of things that you can do just to slightly change vocal mannerisms, maybe, or like, is there something that they always say? Is there a word that they always say? Do they refer to everyone in the third person, or do they only use second names or first names, or find little vocal tics and little ways of changing up your speech pattern a little bit, and also playing with pace and playing with vocabulary. Those sort of things can be useful little ways of getting into a character. Daryl, I remember you had some other very good thoughts in that podcast as well.
Sure. I think I said something about think about the person you'd ideally like to be, and then like try to like embody that as you go. But I was gonna say something again. This is like relative to everyone. You don't have to be an actor to take this on, but a teacher, my favorite actor teacher said, "Oh, work from you." And every time you're asked to make a decision in D&D, the DM, well, in my experience, will say, "What do you do now?" "Oh, you're in this situation. What do you do?" And your first response is going to be, "Oh, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to check this thing out, or I'm going to throw this thing here." Even though your character and you aren't necessarily the same, it's a work of fiction, you yourself are making the decisions. And you might have based your character of something you've seen or something you've read, and everyone can do an impression. You know, like everyone wants to pretend to be, I know, Aragorn in Lord of the Rings, or this character from that thing, and everyone can put on a little voice and just let yourself go a bit and work from you. And I think it's there. No one's going to judge you on your acting ability. As long as you're having fun, go for it.
Yeah. I think this is a big thing, isn't it? Because it's a game. And the whole point of a game is that you're meant to play. It doesn't matter whether you're doing a voice or something like that, because I don't know if this is true with everyone, but certainly when I make a character, there's normally one like little detail that links it to me a little bit. So it's that part that I get access through, or I think, okay, well, what's their agenda in this situation? I can now explore around that, but I know what this character wants in the end of it. So it doesn't necessarily have to come down to a voice. It can be just, how does the situation that you've been put into connect with that small part of yourself that is this character, and then flush it out. Have fun. The whole point is that you're around a table with your friends. So if you are there and you feel like, oh, actually, I don't like that voice, nobody's going to judge you for that.
Yeah,
feel
just
free
change
to play and make mistakes. Yeah.
Just come back in the next session and be like, I'm doing something different now. Cool.
Yeah, I'm Russian now. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And keep changing it every week until you're like, actually, this works. I like this.
Yeah, it's not canon.
No.
So, it's not canon. Nothing's ever set in stone.
Yeah, I mean, that happened in the home game that Daryl's been DMing a couple of times for us, and we came back for a second game, and I had no recollection about how I'd played my character before, to be totally honest. It was 8 months before I had the character sheet, so I was like, oh, this is what they are. I know their name, and I sort of remember what happened in the game, but what they were like, I was like, that's gone. So they're just going to come back, and they're going to be, they're going to be what I want them to be this time. So they turned into a sort of jolly northern kind of upbeat, much more, I don't know, just I think probably quite different than they were last time, but there we go.
I know exactly what you mean, and that is actually a really good example of where accents can be a hindrance, because I was playing in the same game, playing this character Vil Hayek, who was supposed to sound like Serbian or something like that, and it ended up Russian. And it's just like a change that happened within the game. But for me, it was just kind of like, it didn't really matter where it sat, so long as you feel like you are playing that character.
Yeah.
And I think that's the main thing. Dive into it, explore it. Somebody's actually put in the chat here about the way that Orin comes into any part of the conversation, to help him find his character is, I talk like this. And that is so true. It is very much the way you give yourself like 30 seconds to come up with the thing you're about to say.
That's very true. Technically, I give myself about 45 seconds and we cut about 15 seconds of the arms out.
I want to see this cutting room floor.
It is an interesting one, actually. Like, that's completely changing the topic now, but if I can, off the back of that. It is an interesting one because with most people, when I'm editing, because as some people might know, I'm one of the editors that works on the episodes. Most of the cast are now one of the editors who works on some of the episodes. But it is that decision about how much umming and erring and all of that you leave in. And I'm more inclined to cut it for other characters than I am for Orin. I allow Orin to have some more ums and ers and uncertainties than the other characters because, as we've said in the chat, it has become part of his character.
I mean, otherwise he probably wouldn't say that much.
No.
To be honest, because he's quite a closed book. If he doesn't have those Orin gets no screen time.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Audio time. I don't know how that works.
Yeah. No, you mean episode 28, Orin didn't say anything until well over halfway.
We have a horse.
It was quite amazing.
Yeah. He came in on the important point. We must discuss the animals.
Oh, what's that?
Oh, God. Well, Amandoop, I hope that answered your question. Thank you so much for supplying it. Moving on, we have a question from a Patreon member. So Pippa is in the Zoom with us. Pippa, would you like to ask your question?
I would love to ask my question. My question is for Ben. So how is Orin coping with what he witnessed when he used the divination table? Because especially given that I think as far as we know, he hasn't really told the rest of the group exactly how badly everything went wrong. And as a little side question to that, does he still have the cockatrice egg?
Oh, great question. Ben.
Yeah, great questions, Pippa. So how is he coping? I'm going to sound like Orin because I need to think about the answer. I think I think it's a bit more now behind him than it was, obviously at the time. Like at the time, I think he was not doing good with it, immediately afterwards, and was clearly in a pretty major state of shock about the whole events and seeing Juna and Guy. Yep. And then the fallout of that, and then suddenly coming back And then, I mean, I don't think, to be fair, I don't think he's really had time to process it all. I think, they've moved straight on to all the other issues that were going on with the Vondel family and the Witch in the Woods and everything else that's happened since. And he's probably not entirely had the time to process it. So I feel like it might come back and hit him like a ton of bricks at some point down the line. If anything happens to Juna or Guy again, I don't think that's going to go well. And I think he's sort of squashed it down. Pretty haunted. I think I talked about this last time I was on No Small Questions, especially about Juna, because I think it came up last time, the discussion about who someone would save if they could save one person. Yeah. And Orin, it's like, it's Juna. Sorry, everyone else, but it's Juna. And so I think that made it even more traumatic for him because of that relationship.
Is there a part of it that you're able to be like, well, it didn't happen, so I can kind of put it to one side while we deal with all the other things? It's an event that kind of did happen for you, but it didn't last. So is there a part of Orin that can let that slide, or is it still burning in the back of his brain, something that he's going to need to address later?
I think it is going to still be there because I feel like he lived through it. For him, he lived through it and remembered it. Like, everyone else lived through it and then doesn't have no recollection of that ever happening. But the fact that he came back with the full memory of exactly what went down, and then had to sort of throw himself into the immediacy of dealing with, okay, there's some decisions that we need to change. There's things that need to happen, and having to persuade the rest of the group to follow a course of action and dissuade them from doing other things. But yeah, he lived through it. And David can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it sort of faded away like a ghost. It's still there. It's still a lived experience for him.
Because we haven't heard it on the podcast, but Orin still hasn't actually spoken about this with the group, has he?
No.
So he's completely bottled it up himself.
Yeah.
He had his. I understood why he didn't say anything at the time, but it did kind of surprise me that at no point Orin's just gone, oh, by the way, you died. Moving on.
Yeah. I think that would be a really tricky thing for him to broach. I mean, maybe it will come out at some point.
Come out with the egg, perhaps?
With the egg. Oh, yes, talking of the egg. So, Karen, yes, has messaged in the chat saying 50 episodes later, something's moving in his bag. However, we were told that, I think, was it Ruana said that it needs to be kept cold, and it's not been kept cold. So I think that egg has cooked, as it were. I think he's now just holding on to a stone egg.
Oh.
He's still got it. Yes, he's still got it, to answer your question, though, Pippa. I think Orin is probably a little bit of a hoarder in that he likes to hang on to stuff because it might come in useful later. He doesn't like throwing stuff away. I think that's probably a lot to do with his upbringing on the Wonars and also his tinkering, that he's like, this could be useful. So he's not going to get rid of it unless he absolutely has to.
You can have multiple bags of holdings of just all this junk that you've picked up along the way.
Yep.
I mean, is it useful for Orin, or is it more useful for your sneaky DM? This is the thing. You'll be like, okay, it's in my inventory, and then, there's a mission that we have to go to this Arctic tundra for a week. And like Orin deals with himself, he puts all his like little furs on and stuff, gets his leg brace banded up so his war wound doesn't get cold. And then this egg will just hatch in the night and murk them all.
It could well happen. I think Orin has checked it at least once or twice on mic since then. I think he has referenced looking at it, but I don't think he has recently. It's probably been a good, I don't know, 5 or 6 episodes since he's mentioned anything about it. So it's just in his bag.
See, I thought David would have forgotten about it until we just mentioned it.
He doesn't forget a thing. I think he's got an eidetic memory or something.
Nah.
Yeah. He's not going to forget something like that.
He's always planning. Cheers for answering that, and thank you so much, Pippa, for your question.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, next up, we have a really good question from... Oh, it's from me. Okay, so this question is for Daryl.
The surprise.
I know, acting.
Oh, God.
This comes from
So, Daryl-
Below Oaks.
Yeah, Below.Oaks.
Oh, I'm so
Thank
sorry.
So, Daryl, in episode 19, we had a terrifying example of what can happen if Enkidu loses control to a patron. However, It did make me wonder if there is potential for Enkidu to allow his friends to possess his body with their own abilities. Or is this strictly limited to a natural one, Alcibiades taking over, slashing at Juna? The concept of a randomized mid-fight multi-classing could be a game breaker. So basically, my question is this something that you explored beforehand? Like, was that experience with the natural one and the puppeting moment, was that something that you knew might happen? Or is this kind of like opening doors for Enkidu to be like, okay, what if you're able to work with your patrons and access something new?
The natural one thing is something I suspected might happen. I didn't know for sure. David hinted at it from the beginning that, oh yeah, we can do this, do that, and roll for this to see which one of your buddies you talk to. Well, if you roll low enough, well, ugh. And I thought, cool, that's exciting. And then it happened. And my heart dropped out of my mouth. I'm like, please don't make me roll to kill Juna. Blessedly, David controlled that, so thank God for that. But with the other aspects of the, give him a present when he gets a natural 20, Vicky's mentioned in the chat.
Ooh,
if you remember in episode 8, that very thing happened.
With Light, yes.
With Light, yeah. We were desperate to save who we could save after Juna and Gaius died, and I rolled an actual 20 in the inside check, and Light manifested somehow and was able to heal Gwendolyn. So there are features like that. But when it comes to like rolling those charisma or inside checks, I don't know personally what is possible with those. I've never thought to think, in the middle of battle, I'm going to just roll to see what random effect could happen. But we have worked on a kind of like a homebrew feature for Enkidu to kind of have an aspect of one of his buddies, but I just haven't figured out a way to make it fit in my current like character loadout as of yet. But that option is available to him.
That is exciting. I really like the sound of this. Because the way that you've described these patrons is that I kind of feel like I can see which classes they would have been. Like, Light being a cleric of some kind. Hina I'm seeing as more of like a rogue. You've also got Kingsblood in you, which is very interesting to see.
Allegedly,
how that,
Kingsblood.
Allegedly, yeah.
I don't know. Allegedly.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see where it would go. So you've started exploring the possibilities then of these multiple patrons in your head, because I have noticed that since that event, Enkidu has been a bit more cautious about speaking to his patrons, just in case that same thing happens again.
I think that's Darrow being cautious, because every other time after I rolled those charisma checks, they were so low. They were all in this single digits, and like I thought, oh well, fucked it again.
Is it just a natural one, or you might want to say?
I think it's a natural one, but if I roll, I think if a natural, I'm thinking a natural one, Alcibiades takes over and he does whatever. But if it's like close to that, I think there's a range. I'd say, for example, between 1 to 5, I can speak to him. Right. Or access him.
But he won't take over your body.
He won't take over unless it's like a natural one.
That is a really cool mechanic, just to kind of, I love the Hexblade Warlock anyway. It's such an awesome subclass to play. Yeah. But to have this extra little mechanic of the randomized weapon, randomized charisma checks, it's got so much potential.
Yeah.
Amazing. Cheers for answering that one. It's a really good question. Thank you, me. So let's move on to question from someone else for you both. So this is actually from Karen, who has asked, has anything about your character or their backstory changed since starting the podcast? Or has everything remained set in stone since you created them? We've just spoken to Daryl, so Ben, do you want to start off with this one?
That is a really good question, Karen. I don't think anything major has changed in backstory for me. I feel like stuff just sort of gets a little bit more sort of fleshed out than what I originally wrote down on sort of the PDF that I sent to David 9 months ago or whenever that was. But I don't think there's been any major alterations where I'm like, cross all of that out. oh, he's not from the Woden Isles at all. It's going to be from Splinter Falls. I don't think anything's massively altered. I think just a little more fleshed out. I think in terms of how the character plays, I think that probably has changed. But then I think that's just sort of finding how the character plays in the moment as you go along. And I think you sort of come in with slight expectations of how they might work out. And then as soon as you actually start interacting with the other characters, you're like, oh, okay, actually, they're not quite what I thought they were going to be. This different elements of them come more to the fore and stuff. But yeah, that's vague and not useful.
Well, it's interesting because maybe it has actually changed since when you originally put it on paper, but it's been an organic change that's happened throughout the podcast with Oren being in relation to other people.
Yeah,
because he is. Although he's closed off, he's a lot more open than he was to begin with.
Oh, yeah. I think Oren as a character has definitely developed as he's gone along, undoubtedly, from being with the group. And as you say, Sam, he's starting to open up more and starting to sort of be a bit more trusting. Back in the sort of Tillisham arc, he was quite keen to just leave at several points.
Yeah.
just go. Mm-hmm. And that was always going to be an interesting thing, because I think that is kind of, as I worked on him and wrote him and based on discussions with David, like, I think him leaving is something that he does sometimes. So,
Oh, did he leave his farming job on the Woden Isles? Which I think is sinister. I don't think it's farming. I think it's like slavery. But anyway, carry on.
Oh my gosh.
It's the Woden Isles. We know what they're like.
Yeah, that's true. That is an interesting little, like, character development thing, though, in terms of, like, developing where he's from and all of that, because this might be breaking news, that I recently ran a one-shot for the cast and for Sam set on the Woden Isles. Yeah. So that was an opportunity to actually discuss the Woden Isles in a lot more depth with David as well and start fleshing out that world. So I think, that might lead to some slight alterations down the line.
Brilliant. Okay, and actually, before we ask Daryl the same question, David has put in the chat to confirm for us from the DM. Daryl's document was about 20 pages long. Ben's had pictures, though.
Yep. Mine had pictures. I'll count.
Wait, they're in front of you?
Yeah, he always has his typed up notes. This is Ben we're talking about.
Oh my god.
I think it's 9 pages.
Oh, nice. Front and back?
No. 9 altogether. 4.5. But lots of pictures.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
My gosh.
Oh, I wish this was on YouTube. Anyway, no, I don't, because I look awful. So, Daryl, same question for you then. From your 20 pages, were you able to get off book at all and start ad-libbing? Or have you pretty rigidly stuck to backstory, character choices that you made early on? Or has it just continued to flow throughout the podcast?
The latter. It's kind of come out through the podcast. I mean, like, from the backstory that's written, I mean, that's for my acting process, that kind of like informs me of what he's been through rather than this is what this person is like. Do you know what I mean? Because I could probably write that in 3 sentences, if you can believe me, David. But it's kind of like the kind of player I am. I just kind of don't want to pre-plan things too much and just let events dictate who he is and how he handles things. Like the whole edgy persona was not something I planned at all. But it wasn't until I think Grace absolutely nailed it in No Small Questions last episode when he first lays eyes on Gwendolyn in and sees how she presents herself. He's like, no, don't want this, no. And then all of that came about. So it's I prefer events to kind of like dictate like how he presents himself and who he is.
I think like you find out I mean, it's probably obvious to say, but you find out so much about them when they're in a situation and then how they react to that. But then also I find myself often, I don't know if the rest of you do this, but like afterwards being like, I feel like I missed a thing there. I totally missed that. Like there was an opportunity to use a moment and kind of leap off and react to it or take it in a certain way.
All the time.
And then, so then I kick myself after an episode. I'm like, why didn't I do that? So then going into like a future episode, then I'm like, remember that moment that flew past that you didn't latch onto. Like, okay, take that, use that, like think about how you can kind of
work that in organically. Yeah.
And that moment's gone, but like that side of the character where you're like, oh, that's a really juicy little thing to explore, and I didn't do it.
Because early on, because there is this thing about a party dynamic as well. You can come up with, and it's interesting that you mentioned the one-shot that you ran, Ben, because the character that I created on paper was very different to the one that I kind of put out in the podcast, because I was imagining him to be quite quiet and not really there. And then when it came to it, he was, well, like me and never shut up. But I don't know whether there is that kind of like, okay, well, my character is the most like this, and therefore I'm going to assume this role. Like Daryl was saying before about the differences between, I was going to say Gwen Kidu there, but Gwen and Enkidu is the...
No, it's a thing, Gwen Kidu.
Hashtag Gwen Kidu. Was it that you kind of, you saw the other characters and you were like, somebody needs to react to this, it would be Enkidu? Or was it just everything that you had about Enkidu that you'd written down was so offended by this naive damsel in front of you?
Kind of both, yeah. It's yeah. Yeah, both. It's both. It's both. There aren't any Gwendolyn's in his life up until that point. And he saw them from afar and didn't have anything to do with them, but she's there all the time. And it just rubs him the wrong way.
Although I think it's starting to rub him the right way.
Oh
anyway.
dear.
Sound like Myra.
So much for that question, Karen. That was wonderful. Okay, we have another question from the Zoom. This question is from Hannah Clancy. If you would like to read your question for Ben.
Oh yeah. Hey, I just wanted to know more about the goose. That's all I want to know. I want to know the inspiration behind the goose. I want to know why a goose. I honestly am so enthralled by your goose-like companion, and I want to know everything. That's my question. What's with the goose?
That is a really good question about the goose. So I really wanted a homunculus for a long time, which is what it is. I wasn't able to get one originally because of two reasons. Number one, before Tashes came out, you had to be level 8, I think, as an artificer before you could get an homunculus, which was sad. And you also need a pearl worth or a jewel or something worth at least 100 gold pieces. And Oren didn't have any money. So when the Tasha's Cauldron of Everything came out and it changed that artificers could get homunculi straight away, I was like, I am getting a homunculus the moment I can. The goose. It came about. So I've found the original conversation I had with David about it, where I said, thinking of my homunculus, of creating a sort of teapot, or was it a travel kettle I nicked from Juno, ? Meet snow goose hybrid, goose emoji. Maybe with little wings, the neck of a pot, kettle sort of the gooseneck. Maybe with a little pot warmer flame function at the bottom, which could maybe multitask to help it hover and also warm tea, ? When it needs to be stealthy, the wings could fold in so it looks like a well-decorated teapot / kettle again. Thinking of names, possibly Aggie.
Oh my gosh.
So that was what I sent David some little time ago. And there was another name that I came up with it as well, which I think I ran past the group during the show. It came about because I was thinking, I want a homunculus. I want it related to what our groups sort of become. Tea has become very, very important to our group. Going back to the connection with Juna earlier as well, tea, I feel like is such a sort of Junaism. And so it's a sort of a link that Orin could make between himself and Juna as well, I think, to the extent of literally nicking her teapot to turn into a homunculus. And it was a goose. She's a snow goose, specifically, because I was just trying to think of Woden Isles animals, basically. What sort of animals he might have known growing up. And I think in my head, backstory that may or may not be canon, who knows, that he maybe befriended some sort of real goose at some point. Possibly, I sort of had an idea that maybe he sort of befriended a goose when he was travelling on the boat down to the Woden Isles, that there was some sort of goose that he was friends with. And so he's kind of going back to what he knows. So, goose.
Oh.
Can I also say, the kind of shorthand that you gave us just now, I could hear that being read by Orin, like a conversation to himself. It's like, oh, I could do this, and maybe that'd be that. Fly and hover.
Yeah, that's true. This is where we begin to realise that Orin is probably not too far from Ben on many occasions.
Well, it feeds into the first question that we have, which is, make it relatable to yourself in some way, and then access that. But no, it blew my mind when the goose teapot came out, and then Ruana going and changing into goose form as well. So you had a little goose family. An hour later, of course. Remember Vicky? Amazing. Thank you so much for that question, Hannah.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just like, I've got to ask about the goose. It's got to be done, and I've done it, so I'm happy now. That's all I wanted.
Thanks, Hannah. And I was so determined to get that goose into that episode as soon as I'd built it. I was like, the goose is coming out in that episode. So I was like, the goose is attacking the giant elemental. This is stupid. This is a ridiculous tactical decision. But I want the goose to make an appearance with its little forks transmitting electricity.
And I'm so glad you did. Next up, we've got a question from another Super Hannah. Hey guys! Both of your characters have revealed some serious chunks of backstory lately. How are Orin and Enkidu feeling about that in relation to the group? And how do they tend to deal with being vulnerable? Daryl is pulling a really cutesy pose right now. Do you want to go first on this one?
Daryl's doing his anime pose.
I feel exposed. Being vulnerable. I think he is kind of only a small part of him is has thought maybe I should tell others about myself. It looks like I am sticking with this group. We are facing things together. But I think the core of it is from this battle he's had of, do I open myself up to these people? Can I do that? Am I capable of doing that again? Because I was in with a group of people I was very tight with. We're a family for so long, been through so much, and then this tragedy happened, and he's heartbroken still. He's not over it. You know what I mean? His friends aren't dead as far as he can tell, but they're not with him in the way that they were before, and he has been alone for so long. And then there's this new group who he's not entirely sure of, and he's like, am I replacing one friendship group with another? Like, what is my role here? Like, how do I feel about them? Can I feel those same things I felt for them with them? But then I think it was when he almost hurt Juna. It was then like, now I myself am a danger to these people as well, and I can't, have another person who he likes very much to be hurt because of an inaction or an action. So the backstory comes out. Like, it's something where he thought I was keeping them safe by not telling them about it, but no, they have to know because they're traveling with essentially a walking time bomb. But being vulnerable is highly uncomfortable. It's highly uncomfortable because it just is. It just is exposing. He felt stronger or more sure of himself when people didn't know about what made him tick. Like, he could put on this exterior of, I'm the tough soldier dude with the troubled past, and no one questions me because I have my strength, and that's me, and that they can accept that. But really, it's actually become a detriment. And for him to progress any relationship with anyone in the group, he has to open up a bit, or else the dynamic would just not work.
And it has brought him closer to the other characters as well. Like, Gwendolyn has given him much less of a hard time since learning that bit of the backstory. And if anything, it's given Enkidu a chance to be closer to her as well. So is there a sense of, like, Enkidu learning that, maybe being vulnerable does have its benefits? Like, they have kind of become his new team.
Yeah. And it's a truth he's known for a long time, that aspect. Vicky's pointed out in the chat a moment which Enkidu had with Crowl. He kind of sees that, I think it was a bit of disgust as well, because Crowl can, don't know how this happens, he kind of see inside Enkidu. He goes, oh, that guy inside you, I like him. Whereas Enkidu hates that person. And he thought, if I give in to that side of my being, would I end up like Crowl? Twisted and bitter and alone. Someone who chose to, like, shy away from other people and then ended up this, like, horrible, twisted figure. And maybe Enkidu, like, feared for his future for a bit if he continued to push people away, and thought, well, no, the answer is you need to surround yourself with people, because that's how people function. That's how it works. I think the difference between Crowl and Enkidu is that Enkidu knows very much what it is to love other people and have that positivity, get you out of bed every day, whereas Crowl has rejected that and he's become what he became.
Something to be used as a gambling ante-up, apparently. His little bony fingers. Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Way to derail that one. But thank you so much for that, Daryl. That was really nice. Ben, how about for Orin?
I think, Orin has been opening up definitely a bit more and sort of sharing stuff with the rest of the group. I don't think he's hugely sharing of his own accord necessarily, unless pushed a bit to do it. I don't think he's just going to wake up one morning and be like, hey guys, let me tell you all about me. That's just not what he's about. But he is sharing and opening up a bit more. I think it's hard for Orin. It's really tricky for him, I think. And I think he's feeling much more settled in this group. But I think in his heart of hearts, he's not great at settling and feeling secure and feeling solidly in a place at all, ever. And I think he's constantly kind of clock watching, if clocks are a thing in El Tempe, about when it's going to end and when he's going to have to move on to something new and different. And so I don't know if he knows if this is going to be different to that yet.
Please don't go. We love you. Oh, God.
Why would you leave? What would take you away?
Sorry, Hannah's just put in the chat, don't take the goose away, damn it.
He'll leave the goose. I think what would take him away is a desire to leave before he is made to leave, or something finishes, or he's kicked out or something in some way, that he would try and walk away before that happened.
Oh, interesting. Don't give him that opportunity. You hear me, No Small Rollers. Do not give him the opportunity to run away. We love Orin, and he is staying. That was a really good question. You can tell it's from a therapist as well. Thank you so much, Hannah. Okay, on to another question for both of you. This is from @Stewtown2583, who asks, I'd like to know what decisions you've made so far in the campaign that you, A, regret, and B, you're proud of. Also, is there a decision a colleague has made that you'd rather they hadn't, like punching an old woman in the face?
Of course.
Gosh. Can never live that down.
You never will.
Never live that down.
Except it didn't happen.
See, if he'd let the other guy take over, he probably would have done it well.
Oh no, I listen to Superfan chats when they say, "Oh, you just blame it on the other guy." I'm like, that's cheap. I'm sorry. I can't get away with that. That was a smooth brain decision, and I did it. I own it.
It's just so good. I will never forget that moment. But yes, anyway, for both of you, have you got things that you regret or that you're proud of, or that other people have done that you really wish they hadn't?
Good question, Stuart. I think there's definitely regret about how some of the Vondel stuff went down. I think that fight, that got a bit out of hand.
Oh, yeah.
Orin killed several people with a dragon, I think.
Oh, no.
I think he killed Lady Vondel, and he killed someone else with the dragon, I think. So I think he is definitely not best pleased with the kind of the decisions that went on into that particular fight. I think I can't remember if we said this before, leading Crowl to Ruana, that is a big regret.
Yeah.
That is a big regret.
Oh, no.
That was...
I would say, in defense of your first one, at least you didn't do as Lady Vondel wanted, which was to kill all your friends.
When she cast suggestion,
that probably would have been worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That wasn't Orin, that's fine.
Blame the other guy.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
In terms of things that he's proud of, was that right?
Yeah. So both regrets and things you're proud of. So there's some optimism in here.
Okay, I know what. Getting that door. I'm so chuffed.
Yes.
That we got the door.
Yes. Yeah. Great.
I listened back to that episode fairly recently and I was like, yes. The door. It's just this moment of everything the dice rolls came together after being disastrous for the whole game, and then just this one thing that was like, one thing right, please.
Speaking of, just out of interest, with the door moment, did you have that planned beforehand, or was it just, we're leaving, I've got shrinking stuff, so I can use
Not
it?
planned at all. No.
Wow.
No.
I wonder if David had planned it, or whether David's like, man, they now have a super powerful item.
We were going in to get that brewery stuff, and then we had the solution, and then I think we were leaving through the door, and I was like, whoa. Hang on a minute. I'm holding shrinking solution, and there's a magical door. Yeah. What I'm not sure I quite clocked is whether it was sensible or possible, really, for that run from the storeroom to an exit with the door in my pocket without just going through the magic door. I could have gone very badly wrong. I don't know how well Oren had planned that one out.
I mean, you had your leg brace, didn't you, with the
with Expeditious Retreat. Whether I had Expeditious
Yeah.
Retreat prep that day, I can't tell you. I can't remember.
That's very true. And you were in a fight.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, I was out of spells. I think I'd said earlier I had no spells left, because I'd used my final healing word when Kral did his table thing, and I thought I was about to die, and I used my final cure wounds on myself, and I was nowhere near dying. And then that was it. I had no more healing, because then Gwen was really badly injured at the end of that fight, and I was like, have a cake? I can't like do anything about this.
Oh, wow, that was so much closer than I actually realised. Wow, okay.
Yeah. No, I had nothing left. There was nothing left in the tank.
Worth it, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
can't wait to see you use that
I
bad
know.
boy.
I've been thinking so much since then about when to use the door, and there's been a few moments where I'm like, ooh, should we use the door? Like when we were given the task by Arcadis Dudat. What's he called?
Heron
Ilwyn, thank you,
Heron
Scholar.
Ilwyn, yeah.
Scholar Heron Ilwyn. So when the Scholar gave us that task, I was like, maybe I should set up the door in his house, and then we can just come back in between each task.
You could write him a little message just to be like, hi, we're coming in.
pop in
Hello.
I could post in the door. Like I could keep it shrunk, send it by whatever the UPS equivalent on El Timper is.
I'm sure that won't be a moment you'll regret. And speaking of, Daryl, have you got moments that you regret or that you're proud of?
There's one thing he does regret, and I think it's how he handled the kind of the aftermath of the Vondel fight and their first camp. Our campfire chats are going to be famous, I swear. But we have so many of them. But how he handled that, I think, in retrospect, looking back, I think he should have just stayed quiet throughout the whole thing, because he knew where he was at with that. And he should have known by then better that not everyone is of the same mentality as him when it comes to fighting bad people. Do you know what I mean? They're not going to have that experience that he's had. He should have just like shut up and just let them say whatever. And in his own weird, like bullish and brutish way, thought, oh, like for example with the Gubbins things, like, oh, you don't need that, you know, you're fine. No, shut up. You don't know anything. Shut up. It's quite horrible, especially the way David described how we killed the Vondels was brutal. It wasn't like, oh, you slash them and they die. Wave, just as no, you orphaned a child and you murdered a husband and wife. Like, you know, he should have just like let them deal with it the best way they knew how to. You know, if he wasn't going to be supportive in the way they needed to be, he could have just shut up. But he didn't.
Yeah, give them time to process, because it was Gwendolyn and Enkidu butting heads in that bit that were just two polar. What's the word I'm looking for? Two completely different forms of ethics when it comes to fighting. You know, Gwendolyn was very much looking at the aftermath, and Enkidu was like, "Well, we had to do it. There was no choice in the matter, so it's not worth thinking about." But that shows their differences in their own history. Yeah, super interesting. But as for things that you're proud about,
I think it's sticking around, and for once, I think I kind of the culmination of that is when the lava monster, when he kind of like jumped ahead and like tried to like divert attention away from the group.
It is compelled you,
yeah, you know, to take on that role of a protector for the group. You know what I mean? Like he's that's kind of like, I've made my choice now. I'm sticking around, because so many times he thought there are things I want to do that I know that Enkidu wants to do that he knows the group might not be down with, Maybe Junior would be. Oh yeah, but he can't drag them into a path that he knows would like damage them like mentally. So I think sticking around is something he's proud of. You know.
Can I just tell you a moment that I'm really proud of Enkidu? It was the when you're at Berrien Fields and poor little Gwendolyn is all frosted, and Enkidu basically had to take her to one side, and he didn't treat her like a little muppet like she was being. He treated her with a lot of respect, and he explained parts of his own backstory to her, and it was very loving. And again, that same kind of, and it maybe is that protector dynamic in the most recent episode, you know, with Enkidu really is the one that consistently has her back and is very much like, no, Dwayne, like, screw you because of what you've done to her. So it, you know, it clearly has affected him over all this time. Yeah, that was a moment that I was proud of you.
Cheers, pal.
No worries.
He did set fire to a library, though.
This is true. And I'm guessing that's one of those moments you'd rather they hadn't done.
Well, that's Oren's moment.
That's Oren's moment. I don't think there's a moment that... Oh, I think it's not others. It's something Enkidu should have done. I think when we're traveling north, we met some soldiers who are Berrien soldiers trying to recruit more people. And I think trying to stop them should have done that. But I'm going to defend the burning of the books because I thought it was a character moment of, you know, stuff that he was going through, and he was like, the Vandals, they're a plague upon what people should be in responsibility. They should burn. I didn't expect the whole place to go up in
I want to be very clear. This is Oren annoyed with Enkidu, not Ben annoyed with Daryl. Like...
Sure. But Enkidu didn't expect the whole place to go now. He's like, oh shit, well, that's gone. He's fine. Like, Daryl's like, oh shit, that's awkward. But Enkidu's like, yeah, they're gone. And good riddance. But Daryl's like, oh shit, maybe guys wanted magical items and world-breaking things that David might not let us have otherwise, but oh well.
Yeah, there was a legendary item in there that I think was a game breaker, but never mind, it's burnt now.
There was a deck of many things on the table.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Do not open it.
I want it. Gib.
Actually, if there was a deck of many things in there that burn the room, burn it down.
That's the only time you can justify that action. Oh, amazing. Thank you so much, Stewtown. So let's come back to a question from one of our Patreons. So this is another question from Pippa. This one is for Daryl. Pippa, would you like to ask your question?
Hi, Daryl. So I'd love to know whether you've created kind of individual backstories for each of Enkidu's patrons. And if some point, if they are, or any or all of them are released from his head, how that might work logistically in game. So will they have to be voiced by David as NPCs? Have you had any kind of discussion about that? That's my question to you.
Ooh,
brilliant question.
I'm so desperate to know what happens if they come out there.
First, yes, they all have individual backstories. That's why David joked about, well, not joked, the document being about 20 pages long, because for them to be like a big part of him, they all had to be fleshed out. And the only way I knew how was to, here's a story, you get a story, you get a story, you get a story. So they all have fleshed out stories and abilities and personalities. How they would manifest if they were to be released? There are, I mean, they have kind of, in a way, like for the shield, every time we've used the shield spell, David said, oh, Cal comes out and he catches this thing. I'm like, okay, cool. And there are descriptions for like already established spells and abilities that David describes in a unique way for Enkidu. We haven't discussed it, but I'm choosing to trust David. There's kind of unspoken communication there with like every new ability that I've like kind of chosen. David's like, oh, that's a cool idea to kind of do this and explore that. And so far, David's voiced them all. I've not given him any like, oh, they sound like this and do this. Like, it's all from David's brain. So I think later on down the line, as he gains more spells and abilities, maybe they'll manifest in various different ways.
There's a part of me that really wants to see you play them all. Do you know what I mean? I want to see like a prologue episode where we jump back into Enkidu's one-shot storyline and Daryl has to play every single character and how they end up in Enkidu's head.
Oh my gosh.
David, do you fancy writing that one? No? Okay, moving on.
No. No.
Do a kind of Pixar Inside Out thing and just like...
I know, right?
Oh, that's a really nice question. Thank you, Pippa.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, look, there's another question from me. So this one is actually for Ben. I remember because I wrote it.
Now, is it as good as the earlier question, Sam? There's the real.
I don't know.
I mean, I think it's a good question, and I'm quite interested to hear the answer to this one because I think a couple of other people wanted to ask this question. I just got in there first.
Okay.
So, Ben, in the latest episode, Hurdy-Gurdy Hullabaloo, best name ever, your character mentioned something about being attracted to soldier types. Now, is this based on any particular character, or is it just Orin Nosey? He likes their muscles.
Yes, it's based on a particular character. That's all you're getting.
No, come on, more. Unpack this. Is it Enkidu?
Oh, no.
Oh, it's not Enkidu?
Oh,
okay.
yes.
Is it a character? Is it a character that we've met?
Definitely.
Let's just play 20 questions. Do I know them? Are they from the Woden Isles?
Do you know them? Are they from the Woden Isles? No, yes.
Okay.
You don't know them,
okay.
they are from the Woden Isles.
So I don't know them even from the one shot. Okay. I mean, I'm getting the sense that Ben is stum on this subject. I could ask questions. He's just going to go,
Yeah. I'm not gonna tell you about them.
I'm so intrigued.
Damn it.
Like literally everybody in the chat just perked up when that question was asked. Okay, fine. I'm not going to get the answer to my question. What a waste. Shouldn't have put that one in there. Okay, let's go for a question for Daryl then. And this is from @DarkestArgentum, who asks, Daryl, as things currently stand between Enkidu and Gwendolyn, which do you think is more likely? They end up in a fight or in bed together?
Yes, Darkest Argentum.
#GwenKidu.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Classic.
She is a soldier type.
That's Orin. That's Orin's preferences. As things currently stand, I wish it wasn't such a binary choice of like they fight or they end up in bed, because there are aspects of Gwendolyn that Enkidu's having to open his eyes to and like take a backseat and just let her be herself and, you know, just watch her decisions and either be supportive or not say or do anything. Of the two, that is more likely, to answer your question respectfully. A fight is more likely for them to like suddenly fall into each other's arms. I don't know. I can't see what circumstance that would allow that to happen. But
I mean, they're fighting. They let out all of their feelings. They fight on the way to the bed.
They've both got one point of exhaustion.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. But I'd say one thing. Sex and romance is not a motivator for Enkidu. It just isn't.
He really is the opposite of Gwen. I feel like romance is what drives Gwen.
I know, yeah. Gwendolyn is very much like the adventure and romance and excitement. She lives for that stuff, and that's how she got to where she is now. But for Enkidu, it was like, for him, it was like he felt a very specific kind of love and companionship, and nothing else seems to have replaced that. So he's kind of like, the result on the exterior is this kind of edgelord, where inside he's maybe a bit hollow, a bit sad, very sad. But him and Gwendolyn suddenly falling into each other's arms seems so unlikely to me. A fight is way more likely, maybe, because Gwendolyn, when she saw the brass knuckles, I can't remember what episode it was like, oh, if you ever want to give that a try. I think that's way more likely.
Just kind of on this, do you find that, because obviously you've been hearing #GwenKidu for probably months now, so it's in Daryl's head. Do you find that then affects moments that happen in game? Like, do you steer away from it, or is it just, you know, you're like, no, Enkidu wouldn't be thinking about any of this, so we wouldn't see that moment?
I think it's a little bit of both. A part of me is kind of like, that's easy and, I'm sorry, cheap. It's too cliche. Like, it's what the audience want.
Give us the cheap.
I'm like, it's too easy. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure, like, because it's not, again, romance is not like a thing that Enkidu has experienced, or not that I've written. He's probably just thought, is that something I could have as Enkidu? I'm saying, like, is that something I could do? No, it's not there. I don't know if he's totally closed off to the idea, but as things are right now, it's just not there.
And how does Cal feel about Gwen? He likes her, right?
He likes
championing it.
he likes a good fight, and he sees that. He can see the strength in others, and like, oh, she can handle herself. Go on, fight her. I'm like, what?
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much for that question, Darkest Argentum. Brilliant one. I think we've all been asking it. And to finish, here's a question for both of you from @Stewtown, which we asked in the last episode, but we kind of have to ask again. If your character could have any mythical creature as a pet, what would it be? And also, if you could have one in real life, what would you pick? You've already got a goose.
Yeah, already got a goose. Mythical creature. Yeah, Orin's already doing quite well with creatures. So, I mean, they're mechanical rather than mythical, but...
Would he like that cockatrice? Would he like a unicorn?
I don't know what you do with a unicorn.
Would he like at least 3 more geese?
Yeah. They're not really mythical creatures, though. They're quite real.
Not the one I'm thinking of.
I mean, he'd quite like a dragon. Can you have a dragon as a pet? I think Orin would be up for finding out.
Well, you can have like pseudo dragons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that's a homunculus, isn't it?
Yeah,
You can have a pseudo dragon for one of those. I think some classes can have mini dragons as well. Are we talking ancient dragon?
No,
or
like a baby dragon.
This CR30 void dragon that I fought the other day, which was ridiculous. You don't want one of them on your shoulder.
CR30, bloody hell.
No, definitely not.
CR30.
He wants a baby dragon. I think he'd like a baby dragon.
Aw. Okay, and how about Ben? Same answer?
No, Ben would like a flying creature. I think like a griffin or a hippogriff or something like that. I think that would just be cool. That you can just be like, I need to go over to the other side of London. I'm just going to get on my griffin and fly. Like, how cool would that be? I don't know where I'd keep it.
Deal with that problem later.
Yeah.
I think the neighbours might look at me weirdly if I start parking a griffin in the car park.
Parking an animal, I love it. we park Bessie everywhere. It's like,
I love
stable the horse.
Yeah.
No, I'll take it from Guy. I would park my griffin outside my flat. I've got a little balcony. It could stay on there. It could fly off to the park and, I don't know, find some food or something. I don't know.
Yeah, maul some people.
Yeah, it'd be fine.
As they do. How about you, Daryl? For Enkidu, if he had any mythical creature as a pet.
See, I thought it'd be something he could fly alongside with, but because I thought baby dragon or a small dragon, but I think
because he can fly now.
Fly now.
I forgot about that.
He can fly now. I think a direwolf would suit him really well. Yeah, a little direwolf would be lovely. You know, see him take care of something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he could ride it as well. They're
he could. Yeah,
creatures.
Yeah, and then they'd both fly.
Yeah, I can actually see you with a direwolf as well, because Chris, when we asked him last time, he said a blink dog, which I really like the idea of that, because you can bamf them off to a demi-plane when when you just need to get
it deals with the griffin parking problem, doesn't it? Like
it does. Do you want a blink griffin?
Yes, can I have a blink griffin?
Yeah,
sure. It's my myth. Yeah, would it be the same creature for Daryl as it would be for Enkidu, or what would Daryl like with him?
Oh gosh, this is the thing. I want to fly. Or the dragon. But it really, no, actually, it's maybe moving out of D&D. Ever since I was a child, I've always thought, what if chocobos from Final Fantasy were real? Yeah. What if they were real? They're adorable. They're like horse birds. They're big, yellow, the giant bird. Imagine Big Bird from Sesame Street, but was like more bird-like. You'd have to Google it. Thanks, David.
And literally Googled it as he said that. Anyway.
In the Final Fantasy games, you can ride them. They can ford rivers. They can fly. They're beautiful creatures. I would love a chocobo in real life.
Daryl, I will buy you a chocobo.
Yay!
When genetic splicing is a thing, and we can
with its short lifespan. Oh my god!
Ostriches with canaries is probably the best way of doing it.
Oh my gosh, the poor creature.
We will make you a chocobo. Guys, thank you so much for that. I think we probably should wrap up right about now, but we can't do that without first something that we all need to say. 1, 2, 3.
Anon for now.
Anon.
Anon.
Do you know what? I think that one was the best one yet.
I think so too.
Ben here again to say a huge thanks to Daryl Bailey, superfan Sam Oakes, and to all the superfans from Patreon who joined us live and put their questions to the cast. Our next No Small Questions is being recorded on Friday, the 16th of April. And stand by to roll an insight check, because we will be joined by the blue-haired bard himself, the fabulosa Jeremy Cobb. If you want to join us for the chat live, then head on over to our Patreon, where there are 4 levels of support to pick from, starting from £1 per month. Each level comes packed with perks including shoutouts, access to some of David's homebrewed content like the new Trapper Ranger subclass, and other peeks behind the audio curtain. To sign up, visit patreon.com/no-small-rolls. We'd also love to hear your burning questions for Jeremy on social media. We're at No Small Rolls on Instagram and Twitter, and you can find us on Facebook by searching for No Small Rolls. Rolls is spelt with a double L, as in the double L at the end of sell or well, or the 2 double L's in allegorically. We'll be back aboard the Chugalong next Sunday with episode 30, and also look out for another instalment of Superfan Chats discussing all the way up to episode 28, coming very soon. Right, I'm off. I need to have a think about how we can make use of Kral's homeward door. Anon for now.